Do you really need a $600 car note right now if you cannot afford your rent? People don't want to listen to me, and they don't want to give up the car. Either you living comfortably or you living uncomfortable and paying all these things and being negative. Which one do you want?
Six years ago, my wife took nothing but an ideal and faith and turned it into a multi-million-dollar business with multiple streams of income. As a woman possessed, she overcame all obstacles and created multiple streams of wealth that has impacted our family for generations to come. From mental health professional to therapist to author to CEO, she is a constant reminder of the grace of God over her life. Get ready to listen to and take notes from Stenell, the money therapist, as she schools you on money, entrepreneurship, and life skills that was not taught. No more excuses. Wake up!
Husband, thank you for that fabulous introduction. Can you believe it has been 1 year that people has been listening to your sexy voice? I think we're going to keep going with you. I think I'm going to keep you. Welcome back to No More Excuses, Wake Up, where we talk about money, entrepreneurship, and life skills that was not taught. I am your host, Stenell Myers, also known as Stenell, the money therapist. This week, we are discussing money, but guess what? It is a year to this date. Last year, September 27th, 2020, I launched No More Excuses, Wake Up. Time goes by quick. I am very happy to have on my show for this 1 year anniversary, guest Valery Nunez. Valery has an old soul, very intelligent. Anyone that come in contact with Valery for her to coach you financially, you're going to be blessed. Valery is a first generation millennial who's a savvy WOC, woman of color, financial wellness coach. She graduated with her BA in psychology and a MA in education and over $85,000 of debt. After struggling to make ends meet while having her first salary job, she became inspired to educate herself about finances and create a step-by-step plan to take control of her money and help others achieve financial peace. Since then, she has been able to pay over $31,000 of debt in 2 years and save over $16,000 and guided many other women to financial freedom. Her passion is guiding WOC, women of color, through the process of letting go of generational guilt and mindset trauma so they can gain control of their money. Please welcome Valery Nunez. Valery, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad that you're on the show. I found you through Instagram, and I really want to talk about your business, and it's Holistic Savvy at holisticsavvy.com. And you are a millennial.
I am.
Yes. So you are the second millennial that I had on the show talking about money. So this is exciting for me because money is everything. That's what I do. That's what I talk about. And that's who I am. To actually see someone that's a millennial, I have a son that's turned 27 years old. I'm looking like, wow, you have your own business. You have your things going on online and you're educating people about money. That's so important. I do understand that you had $85,000 in debt.
I did, yes. Paid off $35,000.
You paid off $35,000.
I started in 2018.
Can you tell us what the $85,000 in debt was?
Yes. The $85,000 started with student loans, credit card debt, and really just people that I owed. You know, at that point in my life, I had just left college, just graduated. So majority of that $85,000 was really loans from school. Mm-hmm. But because of way of life, I had to take out credit cards and I ended up racking those up and couldn't pay those back. So it just became fee after fee after fee. And then I started borrowing money from people. It just started compounding. And wow. At one point there was also my car loan in there as well. That's paid off. That was actually the first debt I paid off. And really what started me really tackling my debt.
I respect your honesty because most people won't say that they borrowed. People don't do that. A lot of people they're not humble enough to even be honest enough to say they borrowed money. So that's good that you even said you borrowed money, and I guess you had that inside your $85,000 as well.
I did.
Wow.
For me, it just felt like I knew it wasn't my money, right? I knew I had to pay that back. And I feel like it's okay. My parents worked their butts off, and borrowing money, like you said, was something that was frowned upon, right? It was seen as embarrassing. It was seen as demeaning, but it's literally the same thing as going to school and borrowing money. I didn't see the difference in that. If somebody could help me, why not? And for me, it was my word to pay them back, right? The same way we're signing papers to these loan officers. Why can't I pay these people back?
Okay, so that's how you looked at it. Okay.
Yeah.
You had $85,000 in debt, and one of that was the car notes. When you went to borrow this money, you said, I'm going to pay you back because it's the same thing. I never looked at it that way. Is that something that you're doing now? Do you still borrow money from people?
I don't. Thankfully, I'm at the part in my life where I've learned from my mistakes. And so I now have an emergency fund and I have savings that I've accumulated. And so whenever I need to, I'm technically borrowing from myself. And I don't have to borrow from someone else.
Girl, say it. Let me tell you. See, I have to reframe because you never know who's listening, right? Listen, y'all, she's 29 years old and she don't borrow no more. Because, honey, I have people older than you that is borrowing and still asking, when do you learn to say, okay, why is it, and you were young, that's different when you're young, but why is it okay for people that are really, really, really grown, that have really, really jobs and have spouse to borrow money? So the fact that you said that, that you said you had a plan, you have an emergency fund.
And I understand exactly what you mean because I surrounded by a lot of those people are my family members. I think a lot of it comes from not wanting to stop living the lifestyle you know you cannot afford because you don't want to be uncomfortable for a little bit. And people don't want to just pause and just admit the fact that they can't live their lives and they need to either slim down or decrease what they're purchasing or sell their house and buy something smaller. They don't want to sacrifice. And that's why they're still borrowing.
Wow. You sure you're 29?
Yes, I am. I actually just turned 29.
You definitely have an old soul. Definitely. So now, when you paid off your car, you said you recently paid off your car, or did you pay it off?
No, that was the first that I paid. I paid it off October 2018.
Wow, that is good. Now, can I ask you how much was your car that you paid off?
Yeah, so it was $12,000.
And how long did it take you?
It took me about 4 years, about 4 or 5 years. It was one of the longest ones I had just because I didn't start my actual debt payment off until that 2018, which was my last year paying it off. And that's the year I decided I'm going to add more. I wasn't just paying my minimum. I wanted to get rid of it at that point. I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. I was like, if I pay this off, I can save a little over $300 a month and I can use that for another debt or something else. And that's kind of what spiraled me into attacking my debt and to really just joining this financial community and learning and realizing like people don't know this information. People don't understand the benefits. And that's kind of how I got to where I am right now.
You created a step-by-step plan. What was your step-by-step plan that helped you for you to say, hey, I can go and start my business and help other people?
Well, first thing I did was I had to look at my numbers. A lot of people don't look at their numbers. And for me, I was living paycheck to paycheck. I didn't know where money was coming in. I would spend my paycheck in 1 week. The next week, I was literally going on E on my gas tank and figuring out, what am I going to do? How am I going to get to work? How am I going to buy lunch? I sat down and I literally wrote down my income, where all my income was coming in, how much I was getting in monthly. And then I looked at all my expenses. I literally looked at the last 3 months. And that's when I realized, like, holy crap, I'm spending $2,000 on just ordering food and going out to eat and all this other stuff.
Girl. Isn't that true? That I'm helping, actually, it's a couple. And I said, send me 3 months of your bank statement. I found $700. Bank statements say a lot.
A lot. That's one of the things I do with my clients as well. The same thing. I found almost like 2,000, 1,000, 1,500. And I'm like, you have debt and you can use this money to pay this off.
Yeah.
Like, and so that for me was really the first step. I really just had to look at my numbers and find out where my money was going and what I was doing with it. And then after that, I decided, okay, I want to know how much I owe. I want to know the number. And that's how I came up with $85,000. And let me tell you, I was not expecting that number. And I honestly freaked out. And I was just like, how am I supposed to live my life owing this? When am I going to pay this off? How am I supposed to do this? And really, those were the first steps, really opening my eyes and figuring it out. And then after that, I just took one step at a time. And I said, you know what? Let me start with tackling my car note. Let me pay this off early. So I started putting any extra money, all of it, did a budget, of course, for myself. And I made sure that any allocated money I made sure I didn't give myself extra money for eating out. I made sure that I wasn't spending on fun. I mean, I stopped doing my hair. I stopped doing my nails. I sacrificed for a little bit because I needed to make sure that this goal was accomplished. I gave myself a deadline. And I paid it off. It was supposed to be paid off in December, I believe, of that year. And I paid it off in October. So I gave myself a nice 2 months. And people say like, well, you paid it off the same year as due, but that's not the point. The point is I paid it off, right? Like,
oh, and first of all, should nobody be saying nothing? Okay, especially when you paying your money and trying to get, wow, people are cruel. Really?
Yeah, yes.
Wow.
Yes, I hear a lot. No, but that was really the starting point for me. And that gave me really that push because now I had extra income, right? Now I had an extra $300 that I can put towards something else. And so it became a snowball effect where I was just adding that money to something else and something else. And that's how I was able to build my emergency fund and a savings account and actually start having to pay these people back and not have to worry about borrowing from anyone else because I started borrowing from myself. And I just started telling myself, like, I can't do certain things, right? If friends were going out, I guess I wasn't going out if I couldn't afford it. If people were making plans for vacations, I couldn't go this time around. But it wasn't for me, I know. And right now I know you say like, I'm young, whatever, but I had to make a lot of sacrifices younger. But I know that as I get older, I'm going to be able to do what I want, when I want, how I want, because I don't have to answer to anyone. And I don't have to worry about someone looking over my shoulder and saying, well, you haven't paid me this, or you owe this person that.
Don't that feel terrible?
Horrible.
That car note is a big problem. It was bad for us because we had two. We just had this conversation and then one for 527, one for 537. Oh, and then we had our sons. His was 335. That's ridiculous. Let me include the mortgage yet. We didn't even eat yet.
Or your insurance.
Yeah, nothing. Exactly. Nothing. And I'm like, you know what? That every 30 days, I felt like I was being choked. And I literally would have an attitude.
Yeah. When you're not right with your money and you feel like someone's stealing and really stealing from you, right under you, you become a very cranky person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
that girl, that is so true, child. Wait till you have kids?
No, I don't.
Wait. You also mentioned generational guilt and mindset. I love that. So you said the process of letting go of the generational guilt and mindset. Can you tell me about that?
That's actually what I work on with my clients. So yeah, I'm a money coach, but I really my main priority is really on mindset and money mindset and really letting go. So I am a daughter of immigrants. Coming here, I saw what they went through, and I also was raised in a specific manner. And a lot of money was just taboo, and people didn't speak about it. And even if I saw people being borrowed, and I saw my parents' cars being repoed, and no one would talk about it. No one would talk about the situation. No one would talk about what was going on. But then the weight was put on us about we had to get a good job because we had to support them, and we had to do this for them, and we had to, once we're grown, now it's up to us. But it comes a lot of things, and that's where I talk about the generational trauma that comes with being a provider, but not also being able to stand on your own 2 feet, right? I had to provide for my family before I could even stand on my own, before I could even have my own full-time job, before all of that. All of us go through that. So before you even can sit down and have a budget, you need to look at the story that your parents and your family have imprinted on you. And that,
Mm.
because that plays a huge role, and it's actually giving you the cycle you're going through right now with money comes from that generational guilt, that generational trauma that you're holding on to. And then the whole mindset piece is really your thought about money, right? A lot of us pick up things, right? Whether that's a tradition or whether that's a habit, we usually pick that up from someone we see growing up. It's usually not ours. And so I sit down with my clients and I talk to them and I give them advice and we talk and I make them really think, whose voice are you hearing when you are thinking about money and when you are thinking about how you feel about money?
I like
Is it
that.
yours or is it someone else's? And have you ever given your voice to money? And have you ever actually thought about what you think about money and haven't just picked up from someone else? All these things are such a foundational and core aspect of taking care of that before you even dive into making a budget, before you dive into paying off debt.
That's right.
It's so crucial to get that, because if you don't attack that and you don't figure out what's really triggering you, what's making you keep going with the bad habits, then you are going to stay stuck no matter what.
I think listening to you, have myself, all these other different great women that are trying to help, we are all saying the same exact thing, but it's all different. But it's the same thing. We're just doing things a little differently in how God created for us to be able to deliver it. But it's the same thing. And that mindset, I do the same exact thing. That mindset right there, that is something that you have to be able to reform and change, because I always use this analogy. It's like getting lipo. Like, like I know people that have done it. And you can do it, but if you don't have the mindset to eat healthy, to exercise, you just wasted a lot of money and more importantly, your health.
Yeah, you're gonna do the same thing over and over again. I had many people come to me and tell me, "What are you doing? How are you paying these credit cards off so fast? How are you doing all this debt thing so fast?" But people wouldn't make time because it's not a priority. And if it's not a priority, you're not able to change your life. You're not gonna, if you can't change one habit or actually sit with yourself and make the priority of doing one thing, I'm sorry, it's just not gonna happen.
So they ask you and then they don't follow up because it's not, that is, when I tell you that has been my life for the last decade, that has been my life for the last, and then I in turn get mad. I in turn get an attitude. I'm like, they don't want no help. But it's true, it's not me because I paid off my debt. I did my thing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help you get to where I'm at or get to where you're at or whomever. And you said it's not a priority.
I used to be the same way. And then I realized I can't want this more than you want it because it's your freedom, not mine. So I can't want it more than you. And if that's the case, then we can't work together.
Girl, I'm writing it down because a lot of posting. I can't want this more. What'd you say?
Then you want it. I can't want this more than you want it.
All right. And your name going right? Because that's what you said. You'll see it on Instagram. Yes, girl. Yes. That is so true. That is so true. I can't want this more than you want it. What would you tell someone, or what do you tell your clients that you're working with? Someone that is just struggling right now, struggling in debt, but they're putting their priorities, like you said, their priorities is so overwhelming. They want the help. They do. They really want the help. But their priorities, or let's say their priorities over top their needs. So their priorities is things that they have to pay, things that has to get done, and their expensive things that has to get done. So what would you tell that person that their priorities is overwhelming to them, but they really want to get the help?
I would say first, go down to your four walls, your bare bones. Look at your housing. Do you need that amount of house? Do you need that space? Is that too big for a season? Maybe downsize. I would look at that. If that's becoming too much and you can't pay that amount of rent, maybe even moving to a different city or a different town to have that, maybe also, because that all helps as well, depending on where you live. I would also look into your grocery budget. Are you buying groceries and not eating them and then eating out? Because now you're spending money buying groceries, but you're also spending money on eating out. So it's one or the other. If you're not going to buy groceries, fine, eat out. But if you're going to eat, like it doesn't make, so a lot of times, that's usually and I say that because it's usually the one that everyone does. If you feel like right now groceries and buying food out is really what's bringing you down, start meal planning, meal prepping. And that way you don't have to, you literally buy what the meals you're cooking for that week or those 2 weeks, and you don't buy anything else. And you're doing that for a certain period of time just to see where you can actually cut things off. And then look into, like you said, your car note. Do you really need a $600 car note right now if you cannot afford your rent?
Girl.
People don't want to listen to me, and they don't want to give up the car. It's either you living comfortably or you living uncomfortable and paying all these things and being negative. Which one do you want? At the end of the day, it's the client's choice, but I'm your coach and I'm going to be hard. I'm going to be hard on you. I'm going to be asking you the hard questions. I can't do the work for you.
That's right.
So you have to be honest with yourself and me, and you have to be like, okay, I took a look and I sat down and I made a choice, and this is what my choice is. But until you make a choice, until you actually sit down and look at your choices, plan A, plan B, plan C, you're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to feel stuck. Priorities are going to really be scrambled and not actually be priorities. They'll be just everything at once, and you don't really have top to bottom list. And if you have a spouse, if you're not having conversations with your spouse about your finances, forget about everything else.
Say it again. That's so important. That's very, very difficult. I need you to repeat that, please.
If you have a spouse or a partner and you have not spoken to them about finances, or you guys are not speaking about finances, whether you guys are joint or not, then you shouldn't be worried about anything else. Because if you can't work together financially, then the rest of your life, what are you doing? You guys are literally two puzzle pieces that are separated, and there's really no connection there. And I'm a big believer when it comes to that. I have a fiance and we don't have joint accounts, but we make sure to have money dates and talk about what our goals are, because if his goals don't align with mine, then we're not on the right path.
Say it. That is so important. I'm coaching someone right now, and they are married. And it is so hard because you have the male that is with it. And ironically, the female is with it, but the female is more
resistant.
There you go. Just attitude, resistant, but wants it and knows she needs it. But together, their money, when I spoke to you about the bank, it was two separate bank accounts. Okay, it was two separate, but one didn't know what the other one was doing when it came to that. And so when I brought it out in the light, and I was like, oh, so you only spend money on yourself when you go out to eat, but you spend money on everybody. That's a problem right there, because it looks selfish a little bit in the majority of the money. So having that conversation, people don't want to put their money together. And that's what I teach. Putting your money together, they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it.
But the thing is, you don't need to put your money together, right? So me and my friends say we don't have our money together. However, we work in a way that where we have our personal goals financially, and then we have our joint goals that are financials. The first thing we do is take care of our personal goals. After that, anything that remains now goes to our joint account. It goes, and we don't have an account, but I mean, as in like our goals. Now we're like, okay, we need this needs to be allocated for this. So right now we're planning for a wedding. I don't know what he spends his money on, but I know that $500 a month has to come into that account, because that's a joint goal that we have.
So that's a goal that you both agreed upon for this specific category of what is coming up, which is your wedding.
Yes. Like, it looks different for every couple. We didn't get here from one night to the next. We used to argue a lot about money, because he is I just want to spend my money the way I want to spend it, and I'm a saver now. I'm going to wait because I know that later down the line there's going to be a little bit of this. And we become very well at communicating with each other and really compromising and finding a balance between those, where he has become a little bit more of a saver as well, but now I've become a little bit more of a spender. And we're kind of like in the middle, where neither one of us feels like we're being tugged on the other side. It doesn't need to be a one side, like, oh, I win, you lose.
What I'm hearing is that it's not so much control.
We work together because, we're planning on getting married, and that's totally okay. Not everybody has to do that.
When you get married, are you going to do the same thing, or is it going to change?
Right now, it's up in the air. We don't know. We're leaning towards joining just everything, but right now we don't know what that's going to look like. That's like another journey. That's like another step in our relationship where we're just going to see what happens. But we are leaning towards joining everything and going from there. Because right now we share everything. We live in a house together. We share our rent. We share groceries. No one is, oh, you paid for groceries. Now I'm just not like, I'm going to give you half of that. We're not a 50-50 couple. That's not how we are. We're kind of like, if you have it, you got it. Kind of how we're fair with one another.
But you share.
Yeah.
What I do alongside of my husband, when we first started, we started with our accounts together. Like the day we got married, that week, yeah, he was like, we're going to join our accounts together. We literally joined our accounts together, but it was still separate. Even though it was together, it was still, I pay this. And sometimes we still have to have that conversation. Like but it's all in one pot. Don't think of it like that. It's all in one pot. But I really, and in my experience working with couples that have been married, my husband and I have been married for it will be 12 years in October. And working with that, I noticed that when your money is together and you know what's going on and you're making decisions together, it just make everything easier. It just make everything, because women, we have Amazon issues, in certain things, and men may have their own kind of issues or whatever those vices are. But when I teach my clients, especially if they're married, I teach them it's better to whip that together than separate, because and I'm talking about married couples, because when you're married,
everything's already joined.
Chaotic. It's a mess. And yes, everything is definitely joined, and you have your bank accounts, and then you have to talk about insurance and all this stuff, and I have this much in that account, and I had so it's just better, what's going on, here you go. So it's to each his own with everybody, to each his own. As long as you healthy and you have a healthy relationship, and you have healthy financial boundaries.
Yes.
But I'm coming across a lot of people, and we had dinner with another couple. It's just the boundaries are just not healthy. That's all. And
that's because they don't talk about it.
You want to teach those healthy boundaries.
They don't talk about it. It's a lot of entitlement. People have a lot of entitlement because it's their money. You share everything else with this person. So it shouldn't be your money and his money or her money. It should be our money.
Right.
And it should be a conversation in that way.
But sometimes you have a spender, somebody that is really a spender in trust and all that stuff. And,
that's a whole nother conversation.
You know what I mean? I don't trust you, this and that. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot. Like this right here, this money coaching thing, it's a lot. You got to be a referee. You got to be a parent. You got to be a coach. You have to be a mentor. It comes with a lot of different hats.
Yeah, because every client is different. Every client, especially with one-on-one clients, every client is different. Everyone's doing something different. For us coaches, we have to put ourselves in those shoes and then see what the best game plan is for that person.
That's right.
And that, that couple or that person or that pair. And so it requires a lot, and people don't realize that.
You have to tailor it to the person. You have to definitely I learned that. I definitely learned that when I was doing the Dave Ramsey thing. I learned that because that's how I literally got out of debt. And then I started Money Therapy Institute 2 years later. You can't have something, it's not going to work for everybody. And when I was doing those Financial Peace University classes, they was like, no, like I need to go on vacation. Like one of my church members, she pulled me to the side. She's like, this ain't gonna work. She was like, it's 8 people in my house. We need to leave. And I was like, you know what? And then I started thinking about it. And that's how I started building my school. Building it from other people, listening to what people were saying instead of a cookie cutter, because it don't work. It worked for me because I'm like, like right to the point, but I still made adjustments, but it has to work.
Yeah, money is not a one size fits all. And I tell that to every call that I get on. Like, yes, I may have a curriculum, but the curriculum is a guide. All coaches are the same, and all classes are the same, and we're doing all the same things, but really no, because we're really catering. And I can't speak for all coaches, but I'm catering to your lifestyle and what you want in the future. Not just dealing with the present, not just dealing with your past, but also where you want to be 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, 5 years from now. We're looking ahead
That's right.
Because
Okay.
everyone's so stuck at looking right now and at what happened in the past. Money doesn't have a time. It comes and goes. It's a
That's right.
tool.
It flows. That's
It
right.
just flows. Exactly. There is no, it stops here, it starts here. There's, so I try to really, the main goal for me is really getting people to see that money is a tool and we need to use it as a tool and start actually implementing it in the way that it will align to your life and not just what your parents were doing or what your aunt did or what your uncle did, because everyone's life is different.
Everyone's life is different. And when you are able to make that decision within your life and what you want to do with your money, you can borrow from different people. But when two couples come together, that works in your household. That's what is very important. And when you say tell them, when you have a curriculum, I'm constantly changing my curriculum around. It's like
all the time,
constantly changing it. You have the foundation doesn't change, but the curriculum does change because it's not like they don't need that, they need this. They don't need. And then what we were going to work with on this week, I literally had my curriculum set up since 2019, right? Working with people, and it constantly changing. So what we're doing on week 3, because I have an 8-week program, we need that week 1. It doesn't always, it depends, because people come in with different skill sets. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because the curriculum definitely changed. And that's what I found, that people were like, nah, I'm going on vacation, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So that's how I came up with teaching people how to budget, save, live, and invest all at the same time.
I agree with that too. I'm with doing everything at the same time. Obviously, there are some people that need to slow down a little bit and kind of wait and not, you can't invest if you're negative, right? You can't invest if you don't have money to pay your bills.
That's right.
So there's definitely baby steps, but I do agree that you don't just have to pay off all your debt and then invest. I don't agree with that. But again, everyone's different. And so everyone's at different steps at different levels. So it just looks different for everybody.
Yeah. And the younger you are, my daughter's 21, she paid $20. I mean, $20 a month. You don't have to pay a lot, but don't miss out. Don't miss out on the market. Investing is very important. During COVID, well, we're still in COVID, but that peak, when I looked at my statement, I was like, wait a minute. And then I looked, I said, what? In 3 months, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah.
How it just peaked up.
People don't do it because they're scared, and also they are not educated and actually don't want to ask the questions. So they lose out. They lose out on that because they're not asking questions.
I lost out a lot.
Oh, me too.
Oh my God.
I'm 29 and I'm saying I lost out, but yes, I have lost out too. But that came from me not knowing. I was one of those people that I was scared to ask questions. And I really had to just be like, listen, I'm not getting any younger. I'm getting older. I really didn't want to follow the path of my parents of really just relying on a pension, just relying on retirement. I didn't want to follow that path.
I like that. Okay. I asked you, what are 3 things you want people to know about you? And you said founder of Holistically, Money Savvy, first generation millennial, love guiding WOC through the process of letting go of generational guilt and mindset trauma so they can gain control of their money.
Yes, all 3.
Now, what is WOC?
Women of color.
Oh, girl, look, you got to break it down to me. Okay, so love guiding women of color through the process of letting go. We did talk about this. You are the first generational millennial?
I am, yes. My parents both were born in Dominican Republic, and then my grandparents as well. I'm my mom's firstborn, and my mom came here when she was around 27, 28, and she had me a few years, 1 or 2 years after that. And my dad didn't come here until I was like around 4 or 5. I was raised by my mom and my grandmother for a little bit. My dad came, barely knew English. He's worked really aggressive jobs just because of the lack of English, labor jobs. And my mom, who was in college when she was here, when she started, but didn't finish, she did really well for herself. She was the main breadwinner growing up. She actually became disabled at a pretty young age. We had a lot of ups and downs because my dad became the household at that point, and I was making twice what he made when I got my first salary, just because of the lack of English and his status being an immigrant. I mean, they became US citizens, but It was rough at one point. The things that you see, and people are just cruel. They work because they know that people are not going to, or they didn't go to college, or they didn't, they just came from a different country. People abuse their power. I saw my dad work multiple jobs. Sometimes I wouldn't even see him come home because he'd go from one job to the next just to make a fair living. It's why I became a money coach. Is I know that for many of us as first generation, we've seen that. We've seen the struggle. We've seen what our parents have gone through, and we're trying to break out of that, but we don't know how to because we weren't taught how to do that. We didn't see anything different. And so for me, the reason what pushed me in my passion is giving people hope and the possibility and showing them that if I can do it, so can they.
That's why my podcast, I talk about money, entrepreneurship, and life skills that was not taught, because they all go hand in hand and it wasn't taught. Wow. That's a profound story about your father and your mother. And that's probably why you are the woman that you are, because you're the oldest. And I said in the beginning, not knowing your story, that you had an old soul. So I'm sure there's some things that you probably had to do in order to help around and help your siblings.
There's a lot of sacrifices, honestly. One of the big things that really, why I mentioned generational trauma, is because there are a lot of sacrifices that you have to give up that you don't want to give up when you're growing up as a first gen. You become angry and resentful, and you become really this person that you're just, why kind of start blaming other people for the situation that you're living in, instead of actually trying to get out of that bubble, trying to explore and move up. And so I was at that point right before I started paying off my debt where I would cry every single day because I just didn't know what to do, because I felt stuck, instead of actually thinking about the things that I could do and educating myself and not blaming my parents, because my parents did the best that they could. It was my turn to do better, not just for me, but for the next generation. That's really what pushes me every single day, is that I need to do better.
I forget what you said. You said something about you didn't want to, or
yeah. So a lot of things I did. So I can give you an example. I went to a university, a private university, and I was there for 3 years. And I had to leave my third year, my junior year of college, because my parents couldn't afford their mortgage. And I had to leave, and I had to work 3 jobs, and I had to pick up that pace because not them, there was no one else. I had to let go of something that I knew that, my goal was to finish college with my friends, and they got to graduate and I didn't. And all these things that you come up with in your head and are valid, they're valid points. And my parents, so wonderful. They tell me how much they appreciate everything so much, and they felt sorry for everything. But that was what I was dealt. It didn't mean that I had to stick with that. I definitely helped them out. And then I said, for myself, I knew that a lot of people didn't want me to stop going to school because they didn't want me to become a statistic. They said there's like 80% of people who quit school don't come back and they never finish.
Yes.
And I said, I'm not going to be that, because I'm already a statistic, being an immigrant and being a daughter of immigrants. And that's just not happening. I did work 3 jobs. I did help my parents out. And then I went back to school. And that's how I have all this debt. I made sure to finish because that's something that I wanted.
I'm glad you said that, because what you did was, the sacrifice was huge. And although you didn't want to do it, you did it. You said something that stuck out to me. You said that you were in your junior year and you had to go. You didn't have a choice because they couldn't pay the mortgage. I don't know if anybody gonna pick that up, but for me, that is so deep, because they had to decide, which one they had to let go, and you were able to be mature enough to understand that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've never actually took a moment to actually think about it that way. But yeah, at the time I was dorming. And for me, it was stay here and hear back and keep hearing about my parents struggling, or do something about it. And my mom didn't want me to leave, and, nobody wanted me to leave, but it was either that or consistently be at school distracted, because I don't know if my parents' light bill has been paid, or I don't know if they are going to get a notice of eviction because they haven't paid their mortgage, or they haven't paid PCNG, or whatever the case may be. I just couldn't live being at school and away from them, not knowing, and still knowing that they were struggling to make ends meet.
You made a decision to go so you can help them. Oh, I thought they asked you to leave.
They ended up asking me, but they made it my choice. They said if I want to stay, then I could. But they did let me. They at that point making me aware. We just want to let you know what's happening. But at the end of the day, we would never ask you to do something unless we had to.
Wow. So were they
Um,
helping you financially while you were there?
so yes, my mom was at that point was paying for my car note at that point when I was in college. And they were feeding me. They were bringing food home and like making sure that I was fed and stuff. And I mean, I still worked at the time, but they helped me a lot. And for that, I just they're my parents. I just couldn't be like no, I don't know.
Wow. Wow. God bless you. Because my
Thank
kids not like that.
Thank
There's look, I wouldn't have had no house. Okay. Girl, listen. God bless you.
thank you.
We all have words of affirmation that empower us. What words of affirmation would you like to share with the listeners? And you said, I am the master of my wealth. I am worthy of good things. I am capable of achieving all I want in life. I love all three of those, but I really love, I am the master of my wealth. Tell me, tell me, tell me.
Yes, that is one of those three mantras. There are the ones I live by literally daily because people forget that you make your choices. Everything is about a decision and you make them, whether it's A or B. At the end of the day, you are the master of everything that comes to you. And I'm not saying that you made bad luck happen to you. No, I'm talking about the choices that you make. Life is really like a pendulum and it swings from one side to the other, and one choice affects the other choice and affects the other. And on the end of the day, whatever you get out of what you put in is the effort that you put in. So if you're not putting 100%, you're not going to get 100%.
That's right. That's right. You have to put 100% in. That is so true. You're right about that one. Thank you. I appreciate it. That was very informing. The way you think, you feel just older, just your thought process. But I understand why. I understand where it comes from. And you have a lot to give. I love it. Holisticmoneysavvy.com is where else can people find you?
Yeah, so Holistically Money Savvy is my website, but honestly, I am most of the time on Instagram. That's usually if you have any questions or you can DM me. These last 2 weeks have been a little crazy, but I am a teacher as a part-time, so it's been a little while being back in the building. You can find me at Holistically Money Savvy on Instagram, and if you have any questions or if you feel called to just reach out to me after listening to the podcast, feel free. You can find me there.
That's right. You can find Valery right there. All right, y'all. Y'all know what to do. As I always say, listen, Valery came on and she dropped some information. Go to holisticallymoneysavvy.com so you can reach Valery. She came from, her parents are immigrants, so there are no excuses at all because her father did what he had to do. Her mom did what she had to do. And then Valery turned around and used those same foundations and did what she had to do. So y'all know, no more excuses. Y'all know y'all better go out there and wake up.
No hay más excusas. Levántate.
Hey! Y'all heard it. Hey, smart people. I have a 3-month one-on-one personal or business coaching program. As you all know, I paid off $50,000 in debt in 1 year. I will teach you how I stayed out of debt using my burner method and personalized spreadsheet I created to fit my lifestyle and keep me on track. You will learn how to understand your money communication style using my financial treatment plan. Also, if you own a small business and you feel stuck with cash flow or feel disorganized, I teach business owners and self-employed entrepreneurs such as yourself to financially maximize your money, build wealth using your business income, and retire working on the business while your business continues to run, such as myself. You can book a call with me. The link is in the show notes. Thank you for listening to No More Excuses, Wake Up. If you love the show, please subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes or Spotify. To learn more about me and my different agencies and what I do, go to StenellMyersEnterprises.com. While you're there, check out Money Therapy Institute and watch my video where you will see me doing a little acting, showing you how I fought and kicked down closed doors. You can also click on Stenell the Money Therapist and get my free budget spreadsheet. And of course, you can email me at contact@StenellTheMoneyTherapist.com. I'm also on social media on Facebook at Stenell the Money Therapist and Instagram at Stenell the Money Therapist. No more excuses. Y'all know what y'all need to do. Wake up.